This week, two dreams died in East Sussex.
Oops, my bad.
Angela Rayner lost her seat in cabinet, and the Lewes Pound, a local currency with more community value than half of the House of Commons, quietly died. One of them made headlines, the other deserved to. One was kind, generous, and tried to uplift the value of local community, pride, and integrity in their home. The other was a Labour politician, because only one gave £12,700 to food banks, supported local businesses, and ran for 17 years without a scandal. And the fact that you probably didn't hear about her, well, that's why we need to talk. Because yes, Lewes had its own money, real notes, including a £21 bill. You know, for when you want to tip your organic grocer and dismantle late-stage capitalism in the same afternoon. The Lewes Pound launched in 2008, mid-financial crisis, when everyone else was busy panic buying canned beans and blaming Gordon Brown. But instead of panicking, Lewes just went, right then, we'll print our own. We'll stand on an independent thinking community. No hedge funds, no crypto bros, just vibes. And Thomas Paine on the tenor, looking like he'd absolutely about to radicalize you at a poetry slam.
Is that bad poetry, or is it supposed to mean something?
It was part of the transition towns movement, a kind of guerrilla economics, all about keeping money local, spending it where you live, buying your sourdough from your local baker, not Bezos. And honestly, it worked. 400 people turned up on launch night like it was Woodstock for Guardian readers. 75 businesses joined. Even the pub took the Lewes Pound, which in England is basically a spiritual awakening.
Danny, let's roll. What are you thinking? Pub?
And this wasn't just a Lewes thing. Local currencies are older than most banks. Medieval towns minted their own coins. Communities printed scripts during the Great Depression when the national bank stopped functioning. Lewes wasn't eccentric. Lewes was historical. This was legacy in brightly coloured paper form. And the Lewes Pound, it wasn't just cute, it was kind. At the Depot Cinema, you could pay slightly more for a drink, and the extra went to someone in need, in Lewes Pounds. A woman used that to buy her grandkids' Christmas books. She'd never been able to do that before. That's not just money, that's community. That's a £5 note with a heart. But beyond the warmth and whimsy, the Lewes Pound did something that most currencies can't. It offered a tangible, human-scale measure, as well as monetary, of a town's economic trust. Every time someone used it, it proved that people weren't just saying shop local, they were actually doing it. And you could measure that, not just in totals traded, but in the donations raised by charities and local goods. That wasn't abstract GDP. That was the quiet rhythm of a community choosing itself. And what's more British than that? The pound itself has existed since the year 800. It has always been more than a coin. It's been a symbol of trade, of loyalty, of national identity. Some politicians tried to get us to take the euro, but we said no.
Not today, Satan.
We held on to our pound because it meant something. The Lewes Pound echoed that spirit, not anti-Britain, but deeply rooted in Britain, in tradition, in small town belief, in the proof that independence doesn't always mean separation. Sometimes it just means care. So, what happened? Well, cash didn't just die, we killed it. Helped along by COVID, when everything else became contactless, even our sense of community. We chose the fast lane over the familiar face. We got addicted to convenience, we tapped, we scrolled, and we forgot. So yes, we are the villains in this economic fairy tale. Not the banks, not the fintech bros, but us. The Lewes Pound didn't collapse in scandal. It wasn't banned or mismanaged. It just stopped being wanted. And that's the real part of this disappointment, because it wasn't a gimmick.
Look at this photograph.
It wasn't a stunt, it was a question, acknowledged by a town that still believed in each other. Can small still mean something? Can a town have a soul? Can money be used for care instead of power? And the fact that she died without noise, without protest, without even much of a goodbye, kind of tells us everything that we need to know.
It's over. It's just a memory.
For 17 years, the Lewes Pound fluttered through markets and bookshops and cafes, worth exactly £1, but carrying the weight of so much more. She wasn't trying to rival the Bank of England. She just wanted to give value back to place, to make spending feel like belonging. But eventually, and this genuinely is the sad part, the volunteers said we didn't have much left to give. Eventually, not enough people used it, and in a world sprinting towards digital everything, there was no one left to carry the note forward. Not enough people stepped up. Not enough people saw its value to the community. So last Sunday, the last Lewes Pound expired. £12,700 had been donated to food banks. The final £10,000 will now go to the local environmental and food projects, a market stall, a climate hub, a thermal imaging camera for a local energy co-op. Even as it said goodbye, it was still doing its bit for Lewes. No rebrand, no flashy farewell, just a quiet handover, like the passing down of heirlooms. And what really gets me is that this should have been a bigger deal. A piece of English culture, a piece of English spirit and real collaboration just vanished. And there was no front page retrospectives, it was just gone. Our communities fade and we just scroll past. And if that doesn't make you reflect, it should. Because this wasn't just the end of a cute local project, this was the end of what made Lewes different. It was a town-sized act of faith, a gentle refusal to vanish into sameness, a kind of currency with a conscience, and now it's gone. So yeah, Angela Rayner lost her seat at the table, but the Lewes Pound, she lost her entire reason to exist. She stood for something bigger than politics. She stood for place and belonging and choosing each other. She didn't just ask how you wanted to pay, she asked, what are you really buying into? And personally, I'd bring her back before I'd bring back half the cabinet. At least she knew who she served, and it wasn't herself. She slipped away like all things British these days, through a side door with no one watching. She didn't need a second or a third home or a PR team or a party whip. She just wanted to help her town. And isn't that the whole point? So, would you use a local currency if your town launched one? Or are we just too far gone, stuck tapping cards in silence while our soul drains out of our economy? Because Britain just lost one of her last beautiful ideas, and we didn't even blink. I just hope someone in Lewes raised a glass to her. So as always, please let me know what you think about this topic below, and please give me a think about a like and maybe a subscribe. Thank you.